Great job, great job. Awesome. Alright जी, अब हम अपने स्पेशल गेस्ट को बुलाएंगे. न्यूयॉर्क से आए हैं वो, और मैं इनका इंट्रोडक्शन जो है ना इस तरीके से करूँगा क्योंकि मैं उनको बहुत टाइम से फॉलो कर रहा हूँ. पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ बहुत सारे मास्क खोले गए हैं. कुछ हमने खुद खोले, कुछ हमारे खिलाफ खोले गए. चलेगा सर? प्रॉब्लम नहीं है ना? Yes, that's only one and only Wajahat Khan. Wajahat Khan is Emmy-nominated journalist and author reporting on Indo-Pacific security and focusing on Afghanistan-Pakistan conflict. He's an adjunct professor at New York University's Sen. He has reported from 16 countries covering conflict, diplomacy, and the media for digital, cable, and network news. During the final years of U.S. military operation in Afghanistan, Wajahat Khan was bureau chief in Kabul and Islamabad for NBC News. Embedded with over 100 NATO, Afghan, Indian, and Pakistani military and paramilitary units of global affairs, and non-resident senior fellow at Washington's Atlantic Council. Please give him a round of applause for Wajahat Khan.
Assalamu alaikum. I don't have any shades. I'm not that sophisticated, but it is keema wala naan weather. So let's wrap this up really quickly and go to lunch. But before we do, दो आज लफ्ज़ मैंने भी आज इन्वेंट किए हैं. एक तो अदलिया पे बात की थी शफी साहब ने, थैंक यू फॉर हैविंग मी. तो अदलिया से मैंने नया लफ्ज़ निकाला है कि अदलिया कम है, बदलिया ज़्यादा है. बदले लेते हैं ऑन डिमांड ऑनरेबल जजेस हमारे. और दूसरा जो हमारे ऑफिसर साहब थे, आई डोंट नो योर रैंक्स, आई अपोलोजाइज, बट ही मेंशन्ड द वर्ड डफर्स. I think the better word is buffers, because ये buffer हैं, ये जो हैं, ये buffer हैं between you and your rights. ये एक दीवार हैं जो खड़ी हुई है उधर, which we need to deal with today. मेरा दोस्त भी है, मेरा colleague भी है, in a way मेरा boss भी है. उज़ैर यूनुस को एक शो बहुत पसंद है. मैं भी एक पोल से शुरू करता हूँ. गेम ऑफ थ्रोन्स देखा आप लोगों ने? हाथ उठाएं, हाथ उठाएं. अच्छा, सबने देखा. गुड. सो गेम ऑफ थ्रोन्स एक it's a very strange show, isn't it? It's not a very happy series. Game of Thrones में बहुत लड़ाई है, बहुत झगड़ा है, right? There's a quest of power in it, right? It's literally a Game of Thrones. Now for the story, किसने नहीं देखा, by the way? किसने नहीं देखा? Raise your hand. बहुत सारे लोगों ने नहीं देखा. So let me tell you. So the Game of Thrones is this HBO series, and it's about ruling. It's about the fight for ruling this land with different cultures, different languages. There's lots of intrigue, there's lots of conspiracies, and there's this quest for power, right? And more than anything, it's a very violent show. There's a lot of gore in it, right? People get killed, children get killed, people get raped, the best characters are lost, they are beheaded. It's quite horrible. But for 8 long seasons, this show dominated the HBO and in fact dominated American culture over the last decade. Why? Because it was leading us somewhere. All that blood, gore, violence, conspiracies, all of it was leading somewhere. People kept on watching it because ultimately people knew that there's a happy ending somewhere. See, human beings like stories, and we especially like stories with happy endings. Even if there is murder or loss or violence or corruption or conspiracy, we tolerate a story like Game of Thrones for a decade because it gives us a happy ending. That doesn't seem to be the case in modern Pakistan today. We are the third generation of Pakistanis to have experienced the failure of this country. Our fathers and our grandfathers, our mothers and our grandmothers also saw this failure. They also saw war. They also saw poverty. They also saw murder. They also saw rape. They also saw intrigue. But there was a problem with them. They played along. They waited for the next season. They tolerated it. The issue is that the happy ending hasn't come yet. And Pakistan's Game of Thrones continues today. There's been several seasons in this Game of Thrones. From the Qaid not being sent an ambulance to Ayub being mysteriously, to Ayub Khan being, Liaquat, Ayub Khan to bilkul theek nikla. Liaquat Ali Khan being mysteriously assassinated, to Fatma Jinnah being found dead in a bedroom, to the triggering of the 1965 war based on faulty assessments and intelligence, to losing half of the country in a genocidal civil war in 71, to the nationalization of our best, most productive assets in the 70s, to promising us that we will eat grass for nuclear weapons for security, to executing the man who then gave you those nuclear weapons, who gave you that nuclear program, to then radicalizing every institution in the country for the sake of a foreign-backed jihad that wasn't ours to begin with, to then blowing up that very man, that very brutal dictator in the air without ever investigating his death, his crash. That's what our fathers and forefathers, this is from the 40s to the 80s. That's what our fathers and forefathers saw and tolerated. But what does our generation see? What does this next generation see? Now I'm going to go back to Uzair Yunus, and one of his favorite characters is a man, I don't know for those of you, but is this guy called Jaqen Hagar, right? And he's a man who can change his face. This character in this series he can become anything. And he has a famous line in it, in this show, which I really hope you watch. It's called A Man Knows Nothing. He keeps on saying it. Uski aur koi line hi nahi hai. वो एक ही बार कहता है, a man knows nothing. Right? And he has these immense powers. He can become so much. He's so powerful. He's the most powerful character. But वो अकेला दूर, वो उस किस्म की बिल्डिंग में जो पीछे है आपकी, वो अकेला रहता है, दूर रहता है. While this madness is going on around him in this kingdom, he prefers to watch the violence and the conspiracies and the intrigue from a distance, like our fathers and our grandfathers did. And he becomes an isolated refugee, like many of us have become. So, the question today is, I'm going to make this a little personal. Are you going to be like your fathers and your grandfathers? See, I can't wait for the next violent episode. I can't. As the third generation of Pakistanis who have experienced this failure firsthand, we are faced with an option. We can behave like our friend Jaqen Hagar and pretend we have no name, that we are faceless, that we pretend that we don't see anything, and we can withdraw back to our lives like our fathers and our grandfathers did. I can go back to New York. You can go back to New Haven or Bridgeport or Westport or wherever you're from, Greenwich, etc. Or we can firm our resolve and we can say, nay, no, this man does know. We do know. We know that thousands are rotting in jail today without due process. We know that journalists are tortured and killed and pressurized. We know that the plans to save Pakistan, the current plans, by overtaxing the rich and then overtaxing the professional middle class and, as Uzair pointed out, subsidizing the rich and the powerful, or bringing in Chinese or Arab or IMF funds is not going to provide the solution the economy needs. We know that the insurgency in Balochistan, which is my home province, is rooted in years, decades of inequity and injustice. We know that the current Taliban insurgency is built on decades of a faulty policy of proxy war that is resulting in this current blowback. We know that the Kashmir freedom cause has been marred by the policy of mixing a genuine freedom struggle with violent extremism. We know that my hometown, Karachi, this beating heart of Pakistan, the Pakistani economy's engine, which generates more than half of our taxes, gets nothing in return and has been raped and brutalized and exploited. We know that even today the ground is being laid for the return of a wanted, indicted criminal back to Pakistan where he can enjoy his keeme wala naans. We know this. Of course we know this. We also know that the leader of the most popular political party in the country, the most popular man in the land, is rotting in jail for a crime he didn't commit. Why? Because he knows it too. Yes, Imran knows as well. But at least Imran is doing something about what he knows. He's taking a stand. He's standing up for something. He's not perfect. By God, Imran Khan is not perfect. But his greatest contribution is this conference, this very gathering here in Connecticut and so many other places I've been to in America in my last few years here. He's triggered this congregation of Pakistanis, this third great generation of Pakistanis who have stood up to ask, to question, to protest, to tweet, to TikTok, to Instagram, a very simple demand. The demand for change. Now, like him or not, and many don't like him, some do like him, many here like him, but Imran's greatest contribution has been this thirst, this demand for change. Not from anyone else, but from ourselves. So this, I'll make this a little personal again. How will we organize? How will we behave? Will we behave like our first and second generation? That first and second generation who didn't do much except tolerate the madness, who went back to work, who simply immigrated or told us कि बेटा तुम चले जाओ बाहर आ जाओ. That's the advice I got from my parents. Or are we going to organize and do more of this? Are we going to sit around our living rooms today and just talk? यार वो वजात ने ये बोला, उज़ैर ने ये बोला, शफी ने ये बोला, मैंने तस्वीर के चाली में वापस चला गया. Yeah, are you going to write op-eds and support other voices and independent journalists? Are you going to simply go and Facebook this and tweet this to vent your frustration? Are you going to do the bare minimum जो बहुत सारे लोग करते हैं? ज़कात दे देते हैं, TCF को पैसे दे देते हैं, मस्जिद बना लेते हैं, स्कूल बनवा देते हैं, which doesn't necessarily guarantee free thinking. Or are you going to support powerful, thought-provoking initiatives? Like, for example, Uzair Yunus's Pakistan initiative at the Atlantic Council. I urge you to talk to him about it. Institutions which seek actual reform. Are you going to simply sit here, stand here, and name-call the Pakistani establishment? Or are you going to lobby your leaders here in Connecticut, in Texas, in California, and New York, and pressurize them for change through Washington? Because God knows, and I've said it before, I'm going to say it again, the shortest route to GHQ, which is our real capital, is through Washington. So listen, I'm here to observe, right? I moved here 4 years ago because I predicted this. Imran was still in power when I moved here because I saw this coming. I spent a few weeks with Imran in his office, and I liked the guy, but I didn't like everything else I saw. So I went to my mother and I said, I'm going. She's like, why? Where? How? I'm like, I'm going to go back to school. I think I'm done. I have reasonably sharp instinct. I've honed it over years of covering war, politics. I see things coming, but I'm also lucky, right? My colleague Arshad Sharif wasn't lucky. Next week is his birthday. My colleague Imran Raz Khan, I spoke to him last week. Well, I spoke, he couldn't really speak. He's not lucky. My sister, this girl I went to college with, Khadija Shah, I've known her since she was this small. She's not lucky. But I'm lucky. I saw this coming. I'm not in the business of taking sides. As a journalist, you're trained not to take sides. As a journalist, you're trained to watch all sides. And I am watching you. I sit there in my New York apartment and I watch you, the diaspora, this third generation of Pakistanis. The most powerful, you people, the most powerful, the most capable, the most educated Pakistani diaspora in the world. And I'm telling you that you can force change. You people can force change like nobody else. You're well placed because of your location, your wealth, your knowledge, your access, your contacts, but you will have to organize. People here smarter than me, more passionate than me have given you solutions, but you will have to consult. You will have to get off your phones, you will have to get out of your living rooms, and you will have to invest in institutions, not in individuals. This is not about Imran Khan. Most Pakistanis today will outlive Imran Khan. Yes, Zindagi Maut Allah Ta'ala ke haath mein hai, magar Imran 71 as of early October. 2/3 of the country is under 30. Most of you are under 50, 60. That's most of the country. This is not about Imran Khan. You have to think beyond Imran Khan. You have to. I'm going to ask you, all of you, to do something which is very difficult to do. You go home tonight and you ask yourself this, that agar main kal subah uthta hu, if I wake up tomorrow and khuda na khasta, if Khan has been killed, khuda na khasta, or Khan has been sentenced to 30 years, wo Mandela wali saza de di unhone ki jao, and he's going to presumably die in prison, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do with that poster? So think about it. I'll wrap up because it's still fresh in our minds. I will take you to the cricket match yesterday, which I'm assuming all of you saw. We were set up to fail in this match yesterday. Our team was atrophied, injured, fatigued by the Asia Cup. Dekha tha aapne? Our visas for our fans, for our journalists, even for our team was delayed. Our team couldn't attend the conditioning camp in the UAE, which they were supposed to, for psychological fitness, team building, conditioning, morale. And then they were exposed to what was obvious, the pressure of a hostile crowd in a hostile nation, in the largest cricket stadium in the world, with a sea of blue and not a single Pakistani flag. We were set up for failure. Experts were saying it. Betting agencies were saying it. Normal Pakistanis were saying it. We're going to lose this match. And yet we let it happen. We had options. The PCB had options. We could have pulled out, beaten Sri Lanka, the greatest run chase in World Cup history, and gone home. We could have forfeited this match. कि हमने ये match नहीं खेलना. We could have put our foot down. Options थी, मगर उसके लिए दलेरी चाहिए, right? But our administrators were not delayed. They were pandering. They pandered to the bullies that are the BCCI, because the BCCI is strong and our cricket board is not strong. But some of you are parents. Most of you are educated. As you know from your own experience, from your own parenting, the only way to stop a bully is to look him in the eye and say, not today. Aaj maine maar nahi khani tumse. Not today. And that's what I will leave you with. When are you going to say, not today? So talk to Shafi, talk to Uzair, talk to me. Don't just do this. Don't just go home and go on with your lives. with our ideas. ये जो 4-5 लोगों ने बोला है. Go back home with your own ideas. See, our country is a strange one. Our country was built on an idea. Not a lot of countries are built on ideas. This country was built on an idea too. The country you live in and the country you're from. China wasn't built on an idea. China's always been there. Iran wasn't built on an idea. It's been an empire for thousands of years. We're not an empire. We were built on a philosophy. We're a philosophical nation. And that idea, that philosophy was to say no. No to the powerful. No, we will protect our rights. Simply an idea. We just said, nahi karna. Aise nahi rehna, aise rehna. So, that's something I will give our fathers and our grandfathers credit for. That's something they did believe in. The idea of Pakistan is to have an idea. Is to put your foot down and say, nahi yaar, not today. So I will give our fathers and our forefathers respect for that, and I will ask you to do the same in their memory. Because besides, and one last thing, that besides the protesting and the walking and the talking and the eating and the selfies and the naras, do one more thing today. Before you go to bed, come up with an idea on how to organize and change things. You've had a wonderful panel of speakers, great energy, great crowd despite of the cold. You've been here. Thank you for your time, and Pakistan Zindabad.
Thank you, Majad. That was great. Much appreciated. We're almost going to wrap it up. So I'm going to invite PTI USA Information Secretary, Mr. Zia Rahman. I'd like to come here and express his concerns. Give him a round of applause, please.